There's a fish swimming in the Pacific Ocean right now with a completely see-through head. Not translucent, not slightly opaque, transparent. You can look straight through its skull and see its brain, its nerves, and two glowing green orbs that are not where eyes are supposed to be. What you think are its eyes, those are its nostrils. Its real eyes are inside its head, pointing straight up through the top of its skull like twin periscopes locked onto the abyss above. And for nearly 70 years, scientists had no idea they could move. If you're new to science discovery, you just walked into the strangest corner of biology on YouTube. We dig into the creatures that shouldn't exist, the ones that break every rule science thought was settled. If that sounds like your kind of rabbit hole, subscribe, tap that bell so you never miss an upload, and share this with someone who needs to know about the fish with a glass skull. Let's get into it. This creature is called Macropinna microstoma, and it was first described back in 1939 by marine biologist W.M. Chapman. But here's the problem. For decades, every single specimen scientists pulled from the deep came up destroyed. The transparent dome that makes this animal so extraordinary is incredibly fragile. A fluid-filled shield of soft tissue that collapses the moment it encounters the pressure change between the deep ocean and the surface. Nets shredded it. Decompression crushed it. So for the better part of a century, researchers were studying a broken version of this fish, never realizing what they were missing. Every early drawing, every museum specimen showed it with a flat, ordinary head. Nobody knew there was a glass dome hiding underneath the damage. It wasn't until 2004 that researchers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute captured the first footage of this animal alive, in its natural habitat, more than 2,000 feet below the surface, using a remotely operated vehicle. And what they saw changed everything. The fish hovered motionless in the black water, its body angled horizontally, its fins spread wide for balance. And through the top of its head, clear as a window, two barrel-shaped eyes glowed green, staring straight up into the darkness above. Those eyes are the centerpiece of this animal's impossible design. They are tubular, shaped like cylinders rather than spheres, and each one is capped with a large green lens. That green pigment is not decorative. It functions as a filter, screening out the faint traces of sunlight that trickle down from the surface and isolating only the glow of bioluminescence from the organisms drifting above. In a world where light is the rarest resource, this fish has engineered its own pair of biological night vision goggles, calibrated specifically to detect the ghostly shimmer of jellyfish and drifting prey. But the real shock came in 2008, when MBARI researchers Bruce Robison and Kim Reisenbichler published a paper that overturned everything scientists believed about this fish's vision. For decades, it was assumed the eyes were locked in place, aimed permanently upward, giving the fish nothing but tunnel vision toward the surface. That assumption was wrong. The eyes can rotate. Tight muscles surrounding each lens allow the fish to pivot its gaze from straight up to straight forward, tracking prey as it moves from detection to attack. This means the Barreleye is not simply staring into the void. It is scanning, targeting, and repositioning its entire visual system in real time, all inside that transparent dome. And what it does with that vision is equally strange. The Barreleye does not chase its food. It does not dart, lunge, or ambush in the traditional sense. It floats, completely still, suspended in the water column At depths of 600 to 800 meters, it hangs like a ghost, using its oversized pectoral fins to hold position with eerie precision. Those fins are disproportionately large for a fish only 6 inches long, flat and broad like the wings of a glider. They allow the barreleye to hover in the water column with almost zero movement, conserving energy in an environment where calories are scarce, and every wasted motion could mean the difference between survival and starvation. Then it waits. Its eyes are trained upward, watching for silhouettes or bioluminescent flickers above. It is essentially a living surveillance platform, a biological satellite dish tuned to the faintest whisper of light in one of the darkest places on Earth. When it finally spots something, the strategy gets even more bizarre. Scientists believe the barreleye steals its food from one of the most dangerous predators in the deep sea, Siphonophores. These are colonial organisms, relatives of jellyfish, and some of them stretch over 30 feet long. They trail thousands of stinging tentacles through the water like living drift nets, capturing copepods, small crustaceans, and other zooplankton. The barreleye maneuvers carefully beneath these lethal curtains of tentacles, picking off the small creatures trapped in them. It is robbing one of the ocean's most efficient hunters while swimming through a minefield of stinging cells. And this is where the transparent dome proves its worth. The fluid-filled shield covering the fish's head is not just for show. It acts as a protective barrier, absorbing the impacts of nematocysts, the microscopic stinging cells fired by siphonophores. While other fish would be paralyzed or killed by contact with those tentacles, the barreleye's dome takes the hit, keeping its sensitive eyes safe. It is the biological equivalent of a fighter pilot's cockpit canopy, built not for streamlining, but for defense while operating in hostile territory. Some researchers have speculated that the dome may also function as an accessory lens, subtly refracting incoming light with an index remarkably close to that of seawater itself, potentially enhancing the fish's ability to detect faint signals in the water above. The dome may even help reduce light distortion, sharpening the barreleye's ability to pick out bioluminescent pulses against the near-total blackness of the mesopelagic zone. The eyes themselves are packed with rod cells, the photoreceptors responsible for detecting light in low conditions, and saturated with rhodopsin, the visual pigment sometimes called visual purple. There are no cone cells at all, meaning this fish has sacrificed all color vision in exchange for extreme sensitivity to the faintest traces of illumination. Every photon counts at these depths, and the retinal architecture is tuned to maximize contrast, allowing the barreleye to distinguish between the dim ambient glow filtering down from above and the sharper, more localized pulses of bioluminescence produced by living organisms. It doesn't just see in the dark, it reads the dark. But the barreleye's strangeness does not stop at its eyes. Look at its mouth. It is tiny, almost comically small for a fish of its size, which reaches about 15 centimeters, roughly the length of a pen. That miniature mouth is not a flaw. It is precision engineering. When the fish finally rotates its eyes forward and tilts its body upward to feed, it uses that small mouth to pluck individual prey items from between the tentacles of a siphonophore with surgical accuracy. A larger mouth would mean more contact with stinging cells. A larger mouth would mean less control. Evolution did not give this fish a weapon. It gave it tweezers. And then there's the question no one expected to ask. How did this fish even get here? Fossil evidence traced back to the Miocene epoch shows that the Barreleye family's tubular eye structure is not a recent adaptation. It is ancient. These features have been refined over millions of years, surviving mass extinction events and radical shifts in ocean chemistry. The transparent dome, the rotating eyes, the stolen food feeding strategy, none of this appeared overnight. It was shaped across geological time in a part of the ocean that humans could not even reach until the last few decades of technological development. What makes this even more unsettling is how little we still know. Scientists have never observed the barreleye mating. Its reproduction is believed to follow the pattern of pelagic spawning, where eggs and sperm are released into open water. The fertilized eggs, coated in a thin layer of oil, float toward the surface, and the larvae drift in shallow currents before slowly descending into the deep as they grow. But no one has documented this. No one has watched a barreleye court a mate or guard its young. Its population numbers are completely unknown, and the IUCN has not been able to assign it a conservation status because we simply do not have enough data. We don't know how long it lives. We don't know how it finds a partner in the endless dark. For all we know, these fish live and die alone in the black water, each one a solitary machine of light and patience, drifting through a world we have barely begun to explore. There are other members of the Barreleye family, the Opisthoproctidae, and some of them are even stranger. The brown snout spookfish, Dolichopteryx longips, possesses an eye system that includes not just a lens, but a mirror. It is one of only 2 vertebrates ever discovered that uses reflective optics to focus images, bouncing light off layers of guanine crystals inside a secondary eye structure called a diverticulum. This gives it the ability to see both upward and downward simultaneously, processing 2 completely different fields of vision at the same time. A fish with mirrored eyes. A vertebrate using telescope technology inside its own skull. And its relative, the glasshead barreleye, Rhynchohyalus natalensis, independently evolved its own version of mirror optics using entirely different tissue. 2 species in the same family arrived at the same impossible solution through completely separate evolutionary pathways. Nothing about this family follows the rules. The barreleye reminds us that the deep ocean is not just dark. It is a laboratory of evolution, running experiments that the surface world has never attempted. Down there, where pressure crushes and light vanishes, life does not play by the rules we were taught. It builds transparent skulls. It floats motionless in the void. It steals food from predators 30 feet long and uses green-filtered periscope eyes to watch the world above from below. The barreleye fish is not just unusual. It is proof that the deepest parts of our planet are still inventing forms of life we are barely equipped to understand. If this video opened your eyes to something new, and yes, the pun is absolutely intended, hit that like button and let the algorithm know this kind of content matters. Subscribe to Science Discovery so you're here the next time we pull something impossible out of the deep. Share this video with someone who thinks they've seen everything nature has to offer, because they haven't. Not even close. We've got more coming, and trust me, it only gets stranger from here.